Minnie Marie Heine Conrad was born on March 20th, 1924. She was 6 feet tall, 170 pounds, with auburn hair. She was a white female that was 34 years old at the time of her disappearance. In 1958, she disappeared from Meridian, Texas, from Bosque County, where it was reported that she walked away after leaving behind her 4 daughters and husband. Later, it was discovered that she had been in the University of Texas Medical Center in Galveston, Texas from July 18th through the 30th of 1960. There is no entry for her on NamUs, at least when I checked in December of 2021, and there was not an entry for her on Find a Grave. I could only find one record of her family on Family Search, which was a 1930 census record. She was 6 years old at the time and lived in Bosque County with her parents and siblings. It had stated that her parents had came from Germany and into the U.S. She lived, of course, with her parents and sibling, and the same is true for 10 years later in the 1940 census, where she was 16 and still lived with her family. In 1984, her husband passed away without ever knowing what happened to her. In 2004, her youngest daughter made a post on Ancestry asking for any info as to what happened to her mother. The post stated that she, Donna, had found out that Minnie had died in Enterprise, Coffee County, Alabama. She believed that her mother had changed her name to Minnie Cole, but when she tried to contact the local paper in Enterprise, she was told that their records did not go back to 1976. One source talks about this snippet where one person stated that they found info on Minnie Cole from Alabama, but their search found that this Minnie was listed as African American in the records. Personally, I could not find this record myself, but like I said, this is just something someone else had stated. There is, though, a profile page for Minnie Pearl Cole on Find a Grave, with her life spanning from March 21st, 1924, and ending on December 31st, 1976. She was buried in Mount Calvary Cemetery in Coffee County, Alabama. There are no linked family members on her profile. The last known contact with humanity from Minnie was on April 10th, 1962. While driving a 1956 coupe, Minnie was involved in a collision with a parked car. The accident happened at 75 feet east of 11th Street and Avenue B in Galveston, Texas. Minnie was taken to John Sealy Hospital for emergency treatment. She was then ticketed for failure to remain at the scene of the accident. The report lists Minnie's address at 1009 Avenue B. Today, this area is part of the large hospital district in Galveston, which is right by John Sealy Hospital and the UTMB School of Nursing. For reasons unknown, it seems that Minnie went to Galveston at some point and decided to stay there. Beyond this, though, there was little known about her case. Scott Andreas Sims, born Douglas, also known as Andy, was born on July 1st, 1950. He was the second child of his parents, Donald and Ellen Douglas. He had an older brother, Donald Jr., that was born a year earlier in 1949. Their parents married as teens, then divorced, then married 2 other people. Scott's mother, Ellen, married William Sims, who was a member of the National Guard and an English professor at some point in the past at Midwestern University. He is reported to have accepted both boys into his life, growing especially close to Scott. It has been reported that both boys took the last name of their stepfather, which might seem odd to those of us today, but as I have sort of talked about in the past, I have read that during the mid-century in America, it seems that people would take their stepfather's surname after their original parents had divorced. Scott was a Boy Scout, and he went to Jefferson Elementary School, where he was in the 5th grade. He disappeared on December 9th, 1961, from his home in Wichita Falls, Texas. He was 11 years old at the time and was described as white, 4'11", 90 pounds, with blue eyes, and strawberry blonde hair. He was last known wearing glasses, a black coat over a black turtleneck sweater, blue jeans, and a black knit cap. Scott was at home with his older brother in their home on the 4600 block of Stanford Avenue, where he went to play outside between 12:45 and 1 p.m. He was never heard from again. Their mother had called out about 30 minutes before, with both children being home. She returned home at 2:30 p.m. and couldn't find Scott. The family reportedly searched for him for over 5 hours before reporting his disappearance to the police at 8 p.m. The family had only lived in Wichita Falls for a short period of time before his disappearance. The boys' biological father had lived in California at this time with his second wife and another child. His stepfather, William, had reported for duty in Fort Polk, Louisiana during the Berlin crisis. Police believe that Scott was a victim of homicide. There are few leads to the case, but one goes into his affiliation with the Boy Scouts. There was a report made that a boy matched Scott's description and was seen around 3 p.m. that day in 1961. The witness stated that he had seen Scott at the Boy Scout hut, which was only hours after he went missing. Scott was a tenderfoot in the Boy Scouts' Troop 22. A few people, including his cub master Bill Fortune, reported that they thought a relative had picked up Scott that day. His troop was preparing for a campout and continued with their plans, hoping that he would show up. The trail and areas traveled by the scouts were searched to no avail. Lake Wichita, which is close to the hut, was searched and dragged, but there were no viable leads. The police searched a grouping of caves near Fairway Boulevard to no avail, after friends had reported that Scott sometimes played there. Despite land and air search efforts by volunteers and multiple agencies, there weren't any clues as to what happened to the boy. Lake Wichita was searched several times from ground and air, but nothing was uncovered. The police had contacted agencies in the area and across state lines, including the FBI and the Texas Department of Public Safety. A cemetery by the family's home was also searched, though there was no trace of him either. Investigators spoke with people who were known for liking children and visited the local prison to follow up on any of the information. It is unknown what came of this. One source brings up the Perversion Files, which is a material of over 14,000 pages, detailing over 50 years of sexual abuse and molestation cases and allegations against former leaders and troop members in the Boy Scouts of America. These files ranged from 1947 to 2005, though there are cases that have been recorded since 1925. It should also be noted that the Boy Scouts of America was founded in 1910. During the time period of these files, there were at least 77 cases of abuse in the state of Texas. It's possible that Scott was taken advantage of by one of these members of his local troop, though there is no concrete evidence for this. This would not be a far-reaching contention, though, as this reminds me of the cases of missing children that were victims of Mac Ray Edwards, who played as a neighborhood friend to get close to the local children. Scott's father, Donald Ace Douglas Sr., reportedly called the police repeatedly for updates. Donald Sr. had a son in his second marriage who grew up not knowing about Scott's existence until his father's death in 2001. Sr. had talked about Donald Jr. multiple times, though he never talked about his missing son. His third son, Steve, started his own investigation, which included talking to the Time Record News and traveled to the area in 2008. Strangely, Steve Douglas shared his birthday with the case of his missing brother, having turned 2 on the day that his older brother went missing. One source states that in a newspaper they found, there was an article from the Wichita Falls newspaper stating that there were teens going around assaulting children of parents who were stationed at Shepherd Air Force Base. Those bullied were also teenagers, but the author of this source states the possibility that Scott may have been one of these victims, and the teens may have taken it too far. The article was dated at December 31st, 1961. Steve Douglas grew up and worked in the police, eventually retiring. He had stated, "As a police officer, I find it very difficult to believe that he simply wandered off and succumbed to the elements and they never found a body." The neighborhood that the Sims lived in was going under some development, which could have had plenty of hiding places, though nothing turned up. There were plenty of rumors as to where he could have ended up and where some had claimed to see him. One report suggested that he may have wanted to visit his grandparents in Little Rock, Arkansas, though he never turned up there. People reported sightings in Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Missouri. There have been 24 comparisons to Scott on NamUs, with one actually being from the state of Texas, and most from the state of Virginia. Looking on Family Search, I was able to find a few things about Scott's family that hadn't been told elsewhere. It appears that his parents, Donald Ace Douglas, and his mother, Ellen Ann Akers, were married on August 30th, 1947. Donald was 21 at the time and Ellen 19. They were married in Little Rock, Arkansas. By this, Ellen was probably born in 1928 and Donald 1926. There's a record of Ellen giving birth to another son with her then-husband, William Earl Sims, on September 17th, 1963, to a child named David William in Travis, Texas. Donald Ace Douglas Jr., Scott's older brother, seemed to have married at the age of 19 on August 26, 1968, in Montgomery, Alabama. In the early 80s, William Sims and Ellen Sims divorced. William later remarried to Janie Sims, who would stay with him until his death. Janie had talked about in an article, having read William's diaries from the days that he was dating Ellen, the boys' mother. It stated that William would babysit her kids, and Janie had stated that he had always liked Andy. Janie stated that her husband hadn't talked a lot about that time in his life. In an article with the Crone from 2008, Scott's Cub Master, Bill Fortune, was still operating in the Boy Scouts. Beyond all of this, there is no further information. I was not able to find any sort of John Doe that would have fit Scott's description, and there was only one male unidentified body on Namus from 1961. Personally, I feel like Scott was kidnapped, tricked by someone he knew in daily life. This person had to have gotten close to him for them to have not even been considered a suspect during the investigation. From the way all of the articles had talked about his stepfather, I won't lie that it sounded pretty suspicious. But once again, there's just so little information on the background in general. Truthfully, I don't know what to think. Maria Trinidad Velasquez, née Ramirez, was born on September 23, 1956. She is described as having been 5'3", 130 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. She had burn scars on the front of both of her thighs. Most sources list her race as Hispanic, though NamUs lists multiple, such as white and Hispanic. On June 8, 1986, Maria left her home in Houston, Texas, to go to the store, and was never seen again. Foul play is suspected in her case, though there are very few details to know in general. There have been 8 exclusions to her case, with only one being from the state of Texas, the others from the state of Virginia. A thread on Web Sleuths was created to compare if she was a potential match to a Jane Doe who was called Princess Blue. This was later ruled out, and Princess Blue was identified in 2020, though there were details in the thread about Maria that I didn't find anywhere else. Maria had 2 children at the time that she disappeared, and had gone through a divorce which was finalized in October of 1986. Around 2015 or 2016, a user named True Dilemma created a post on the Unresolved Mystery subreddit. They pointed out a Jane Doe that seemed close in comparison to Maria's case. This Jane Doe was found on April 9, 2000 in Falls County, Texas, on County Road 451, 4 to 5 miles from I-35. Their body was found as skeletal remains, with the estimated date of death being unknown, though it is believed that she had died in the mid-80s. Jane Doe was estimated to have been between 25 and 45 years old, 4'7" to 5'3", with unknown hair, eye color, or distinguishing features. Most interestingly, Jane Doe's race is listed as Hispanic with a possible Asian mixture. There is DNA and dental available from this Jane Doe. The Doe Network states that numerous articles of clothing were found with her remains, including a long-sleeved, light-colored shirt with ruffles around the neck, a light-colored blouse with a cameo sewn on at the bust line, 2 light-colored polyester scarves, a light brown sweater, a t-shirt with USA 1984, a short-sleeved pink Jody brand blouse, a black and gray striped skirt with a matching shirt with oriental symbols and the number 9 on the tag, and a pair of size 4 Maidenform brand underwear. A yellow metal necklace with a heart charm which had a dragon on one side and a bird on the opposite side was also found. I am unsure if the Reddit user ever sent in their find to be compared to Maria's case, but as of December 2021, there have only been 2 comparisons of Jane Doe's DNA, both to a case in Missouri, which it seems that they had checked twice. On NamUs, the age is listed as having been potentially from 18 to 99 years. I think that this could be a potential match, though without any more background info on Maria's case, it is hard to know for sure.